Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation TV with your host, Jeff Charles. Crime is still on the rise in American cities, but progressive leaders are telling the public not to believe the data. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot blamed robberies on business owners for not doing enough to protect their buildings. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio wants you to think crime is actually decreasing. Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner says there is no crisis of crime, but who's telling the truth? I have with me Liberty Nation's national columnist, Sarah Cowgill, to help us suss this whole thing out. Welcome to the program, Sarah.
Thank you, Jeff. Always good to be on TV with you.
It's no secret that crime has been on the rise over the past year. Democrats running these cities are clearly not being truthful when they try to downplay it. Do they actually think they're fooling anyone, Sarah?
They're not fooling anybody, Jeff. I mean, in fact, they're just being dishonest as all get out. I could say lie. They're lying. They're spinning the numbers to make them somehow palatable to the people who have voted these guys and gals in, and they really are doing a disservice of sorts. You know, I don't live that far from Chicago, and I can tell you it's a daily news story. Chicago right now has like 150 homicides to date. They set records every year. So I don't see how any of this can be spun to the public to make it better.
You know what's interesting about that is that while these leaders that I just listed off are lying, you have San Francisco Mayor London Breed, who isn't necessarily honest about the cause of all the crime going on there, but she did come out and give a very forceful anti-crime address saying, this is a problem and we're going to solve it. So it's interesting that she's not resorting to deception here, like the others are.
Well, this is the smartest political move I've seen out of all the major city leaders that are liberal, because she's going to tell you they're going to promise you the moon. They're not going to try to cover it up. They'll promise you the moon, and they're always going to be working on it. They'll form committees. They'll do this. They'll do that. But that doesn't mean anything's ever going to get done. But that's a better PR story than, nothing to see here. There's no crime. We don't have a problem. We're not a problem here. And then that's what you're seeing in New York and Chicago and some other places is they're just acting like it's non-existent. She's taken it on. And so people are looking at her like, well, see, she's an honest politician. That doesn't mean anything will ever get done.
That's true. That's the story of our lives with the Democrats, right? They say one thing, they say, yeah, we're going to fix this. Yeah, we're going to go after crime. And then they don't do it. Although I will say that I don't think that Eric Adams is faking in New York City, who's going to be taking over as mayor. I think he's actually going to try to do something because he's already getting flack for it. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. But I wanted to also bring up the whole defund the police movement because I think that was instrumental in the rise in crime that we're seeing. But right now it seems to have died down, and it seems like people aren't really on board with it, and probably because people have realized that it did contribute to high crime. But do you see any chance of defund the police coming back, or maybe coming back in a different form, or do you think it's dead and gone for now?
Well, I think you'll see it maybe on a state level. That it depends on what their stats are. I mean, for the rest of Illinois, they're not a crime-ridden place. Chicago is. Indianapolis and Indiana has all sorts of crime and violent crime, but that's about the only place. So they might try to institute stuff like that, or they might make noise about it to keep the progressives happy. I don't think they can actually do it. Any place they've tried to defund, they've had to refund. They've had to, return their policy kind of back to days before the 2020 election.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of people rejecting it, especially in Minneapolis. They voted against a measure to get rid of the police department and replace it with the government.
Nope, bring them back.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it was just common sense from the get-go, but how these people get. But with all that, with the whole defund the police movement and the anti-police sentiment, and also the rise in crime rates, what impact do you think this is going to have on the upcoming midterm elections? Do you think it's going to have an influence here, or?
Not in the cities that we've been talking about, because they're heavily liberal. You're not going to see a flip of. I mean, obviously we saw a flip in New York, but we're not going to see that flip at midterms for governors or senators or the House, because those people are still dominated by the population of those liberal cities. obviously Congress, you have 2 senators, but in Congress, you also have districts. The rural districts, of course, will never follow and go into lockstep with defund the police. So I think you're going to see a hold the line in a few areas. But I also think you're going to see a bit of a red resurgence, because not so much of crime, but just the entire status of the country right now. I mean, 39-year high inflation, you've got crime everywhere, you've got supply chain. I went shopping the other day, and I don't usually shop to purchase food to cook for hundreds of people, but I had sticker shock. I couldn't believe how much I had to spend just to buy enough food to make potato soup. It's like, good grief. So, I think that's going to be there's going to be a message sent to Washington over where we're at, with the prices and just the ridiculousness of what's going on in this country right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think crime will be one of many nails in the coffin for the Democrats.
And that's part and parcel with the liberal agenda. So, everything that they promoted and really tried hard to push through to get these people into office has backfired spectacularally in less than a year.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, we'll be keeping an eye on this. Hopefully it doesn't get worse, but either way, we will be keeping an eye on this. But thanks for joining me, Sarah. I appreciate it.
Anytime, Jeff, anytime.
And remember, this show is proudly sponsored by LibertyNation.com, where you can access podcasts, breaking news and analysis, and a range of biting and brilliant shows to whet your appetite for freedom and your fondness for the great American Constitution. Just go to LibertyNation.com on your browser, or hit Rumble, YouTube, or check out our Liberty Nation News Roku channel. I'm Jeff Charles. Thanks for watching. This program is a production of LibertyNation.com, where truth is making a comeback.
Who are we? We are Americans that believe in liberty. We are a project of the nonprofit One Generation Away. We are patriots who apply the founding principles to the issues of today.
And they keep moving the goalposts on us.
We are educators and commentators who love America and the Constitution. Who are we? We are Liberty Nation.